go! Video games.
What up, dudes? Welcome back to the YoVideogames podcast. I'm Matt.
And I'm Andrew.
And once again, thank you to all our generous patrons who kept us going for over 400 episodes.
Yeah, if you're interested in becoming a patron at any level, please check out patreon.com/YoVideogamespodcast. Due to the week is Ketospalus. I might be saying that wrong. Ketospalus? But, dude, thank you so much. Let us know how to say it.
I'm not even going to try.
It's
Setospalus is what I would say.
See, I'm arguing that the C is hard because he has S's later. It's Keto. Let us know, dude, and I'll get it right next time. And we also have a sponsor to thank. Of course, we're talking about Manscaped, and it's the perfect time of year to start thinking about stocking stuffers. And if you're going to stuff anybody's stocking, you're going to want clean balls to do it. And the Lawnmower 5.0 is the perfect companion to clean your balls, like a very close best friend. You know, someone you trust.
That's right. You want your jingle bells to be shiny and bright. You know, you want your ornaments to hang, proudly from your tree. You don't want your tree to overtake your ornaments.
Jingle balls. You've heard us talk about the Lawnmower 4.0. This has all the great things about that, but it has one extra thing, one really cool thing. It has the same kind of like skin-safe shaver head that the Handyman razor does. You can pop it out for easy cleaning.
And it works really well on a ball sack because it's very round.
It works. It works great pretty much everywhere. I once, to prove a point, shaved my head with it. I did. And it works great. I know that people are a little bit like nervous. Like, I don't know if I want to use underwater. I have used it wet and dry. It is excellent. Works really well, and I had no problems with it. No, now granted, I did not rush. Okay, if you're just like running the same way, I make no promises. But you take your time, you take care of the balls. This takes care of you too. And if you want to give it as a gift, you want to be a real man's man and give it to a father-in-law, say.
Be brave.
Be brave. Give it to your mother-in-law. I guess it'd be good for them too. Head over to manscaped.com. Use our code YoVG, all caps, for 20% off and free shipping worldwide. That's code YoVG, all caps, at manscaped.com for 20% off, free shipping worldwide. Your balls will thank you. Make Santa proud this year.
That's right. Make Santa proud. Make him say, ho, 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 who's got a nice sack this year? You do.
Well, Santa's using this for the ho-hos. So we are now at the end of the year, and the Game Awards came and went, and we're going to do our top 10s.
It's time for our top 10. Now, here's the thing. I have 25. Well, I looked back at the year and what was my list of games, and there was still games that were pretty good that came out this year that didn't even make it into my top 25. But we're not gonna kill you with a 25 list episode here.
Right. We're gonna do the 15 runners up for a patron only episode that'll be coming out later this week. So if you're traveling for the holidays, you want to throw us a buck and you're like, I'm going to get an extra episode out of. There's also like 50 something side quests ranging from 20 to 60 minutes long that you can get on there the moment you subscribe. So head over there.
So if you didn't know, we do have a side quest, which is a patron only thing. Again, we don't have any patron tiers. It's a buck. Get out. There you go. Bing, bada boom.
Get after it.
There's almost nothing in this world costs only $1 anymore, but a whole 50 plus episodes of side quest get you.
You're not going to get any fancy buttholes for that, but you can get us making love to your ears. But the thing is, I had an opposite so this is one of the greatest years that we've had. I feel like this at least rivals 2017.
Yeah, the big years of 2017, 98. I've heard other people throw out other years like 2007, which I'm like, but
2007 is when COD 4 came out. Yeah, so I could see.
I mean, I kind of see Halo 3, COD 4. I think
Gears of
Mario,
War. Did Gears of War come out that year?
No, that was the year before, I think.
No, Gears of War was a year after or the same year.
Same, and yeah, and then there's also Mario Galaxy, BioShock 1. I mean, 2007 was a good year.
It was a good year. Yeah,
It was a good year. It was a really back heavy year, though. I mean, it was like the back half was heavy. Where here's the thing about 23, much like 98, the whole year was good.
Yeah, it was packed.
And 2017 was also the same way. 2017 was just like good throughout the whole year. That's how you know it's a good year, because there's, it's all, when you look at like the back half of every video game year, back halves are always,
Packed.
packed with big games, good games. It's rare that you find a year where it's like January to December there were good games being released every month.
Okay, well, what this always means, and I can't remember 2018 well enough to say like, oh, 2018 was an empty year. I don't think it was empty, but 2024 is shaping up to be possibly empty.
There's some good stuff in the first half. You got Yakuza 8, Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth.
I don't think it's going to be totally
Tekken
devoid
8.
of anything, but compared to 2023, it
Dragon's
is not
Dogma
going to
2.
be. It's not going to be like a powerhouse.
I think we got some sort of like, confirmation of games coming out later in the year at the game advertisements. But I still argue that like March ends and it's still kind of a desert in 2024. Like there's a couple things that got, release dates confirmed or whatever, but like, March 31st, 30th, I don't know how many days in that month. Whatever rolls around, we get to April, and it's like, man, it still looks a little deserty. And
especially if you're Sony, especially Sony.
Oh my
god, Sony's. I don't. We'll see. But that being said, I didn't even get to play all the games I bought this year. I didn't even get to play all the games I wanted this year. So my top 10 is more like a top 7 because I felt like I was lying if I said any more than that was top game.
Yeah, and there were other games that I played that came out in 23. They're not even on my list, and they're technically very good games, what have you. But like,
like Dead Island 2, huh?
Right. So they're like, well, I played a demo. I don't feel comfortable. I didn't even buy the game. I don't feel comfortable, like, putting a game on my list that I didn't even have the decency to buy, because to be honest, and you'll see this not in my top 10, but my top, actually, let me look at my top 10. Like in my top 25, there's a couple games I didn't technically beat. I don't know how you feel about that. You can feel however you want. I don't give a shit. Like,
yeah, if it's really good, you don't have to beat it, I don't think.
Right, like Metroid Prime Remastered, just as a fucking spoiler right there. It's not in the top 10, but it's in the top 25. Did I beat it? No. Well, but it's also
really
Metroid Prime.
Good, yeah.
Well, it's also Metroid Prime Remastered. So yes, it's like kind of, but I didn't beat the remastered version, but
yeah.
I get far enough in to know what I'm looking at. I saw Max beat it, but I'm like, yeah, this is what it is, kind of thing.
Yeah, I have a top 10 game that I haven't beaten, but I've played with 3 different groups. Various about like halfway through to 3/4 of the way through the campaign. So like Baldur's Gate 3, I have not gotten to actually beat yet.
Who has?
You're right. Like I don't know. But it's a great fucking game. It is not my game of the year.
There will be a game that I didn't quote unquote beat it, but like you'll see what I mean when I'm like, well, what does beating this even mean?
Fair, yeah. Well, so let's do it this way. We'll go through mine, and then we'll go through yours.
And anything that overlaps with Andrew's, we'll just kind of like skip over on mine, because we're going to talk about both of them right here, right now.
Right.
And anything that doubles up on my list, we'll just be like, and this was this place on my list next game.
Right. So there's no way anybody thought that we were going to make this list and not have this game on there. This is going to be the least shocking to anybody. It's RE4.
Oh, that's your number 7, is it?
That's my number 7. Okay. See, the thing is it's a very good game.
Yes.
I feel bad giving it higher on my list than it's definitely a top 10 game of the year, period.
Yeah.
I would even argue that it is probably top 5 of the year. But, and everybody knows how much I love RE4, so you'll understand me saying like, I'm doing this because I don't think it's fair to give a remake continuous Like, all right,
I mean,
get it. I love the
is-
fucking game.
it is a different game.
It is
from the original
Yeah.
RE4. This is not a remaster of RE4. This is not an
It's a
upres.
remake. Yeah.
This is a full-fledged remake.
Mhm.
And it's a very good remake. Spoiler, this will be on my list too. But I will say this, that I was a doubter of this game. I was very hesitant about this. I'm very happy to say it's not a complete disaster. In fact, it's actually very, very good, actually.
Yeah, I mean, it's excellent.
Is it better than the original? I would argue
Too
no.
different.
I would argue no. It's different, and first, and in some ways it will, because some, there's a lot of people who are kind of like, frankly, just younger, newer, or new to the genre, new to the game, who would very much say it's much better because I can control it. Because the controls of the old game, which is just a whole thing where it's like, no, people weren't there for the original, and now the original feels clunky in the way static camera does.
Right.
Kind of, for me, will always felt for me, even when I was there when it started. But
Well, because tank controls suck, they just don't suck as much as tank controls plus fixed camera angles.
right.
Um,
And so, anyways, I want to, the positives of the thing. There obviously controls are improved. I think the parry mechanic is great.
yeah.
I actually particularly love the parry mechanic. I think the parry mechanic added to the game very much.
Parry and stealth kills with the knife.
Yeah, stealth kills. Yes.
Really adds to it.
I think Lewis's role being expanded was a positive. I think that was better. I think how they
he
kept
is a better character. He's
better
more
character.
Yeah.
He's got more to do. He's got more lines. He's got he's just in the game longer. I think that was a positive upgrade, like across the board. Like so they took an aspect of the original game and they expanded it and made it better. There's and again, I'm trying to just stay positive here because it's one of the best games that came out this year.
There's parts of it that I would agree, I didn't love, but even those parts are really well done.
Yeah,
like it's a game that I can't find, in my opinion, technical fault with.
Yeah, they didn't fuck the sauce. They didn't stick their dick in the pie. I mean, they changed it. They baked it a whole new way, but like it wasn't taking a perfectly good pie and then sticking your dick in it and just being like, well, this is my vision now. It's got cum in it.
Oh, Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas.
So they didn't do that. They made it good and again, trying to say I've been trying to stay positive, but like yes, I am that guy who's always been like, I don't want a serious grounded RE, and it is a more serious, more grounded RE4. It is, but again,
absolutely.
they also knew Leon was beloved for a reason. So Leon, while more grounded, is still Leon.
Kind of, he's still cheesy-esque. Yeah,
he's still Leon. They didn't destroy Leon's character. They didn't destroy Luis's character, right? Like they're still who they need to be. The overall plot and tone. I mean, it is kind of cool because you have these modern day graphics and modern day RE engine, and wow, holy crap! This is a looker of a video game. Yep. It is a great looking video game. The atmosphere is very, very good in Remake. Do I think it loses a little bit of the charm? Yes, I do. I honestly do. I think a lot of that just comes in the fact that they just don't have the codec calls from the original game, which is a minor thing, but it kind of loses a lot of the because there's no banter between Leon doesn't banter with the villains in this one, and I think that was kind of a weird decision personally, where the charm is a little bit lost, where he's not pissing off the villains through on codec calls that they called him on.
It also just makes it so that you don't see the villains as much.
Right. So like it's a very weird thing with Sadler. You get to the end and it's like you've seen this guy like twice in the game, and then you go and fight him and kill him and it's done and it's over.
Yeah, there's not a huge
he was barely a presence in the game at all.
Yeah.
But still it is a good game. I don't think it's as fun as the original in that sense. There were a couple moments where like they took a sequence out and sort of replaced it with a basically another shootout moment. There's like a couple tiny little things like that. There's again there is no goofiness where there's no lava room for no reason. There's no Robo Salazar. I don't and that kind of sucks a little bit. Um,
My biggest thing is that I felt personally it lost replay value because it lost the arcadiness of the original.
right. That is, I think, my yeah.
But
And it's hard to say too because
yeah,
I played the original dozen times or more all the way
yeah,
through. I played through RE4 Remake once. I went back and I did the shooting gallery because the shooting gallery was massively expanded in a good way.
yeah.
And they made the shooting gallery way more involved, and that's great
And
because
the
shooting gallery is
charms
fun.
make things interesting, and
Yeah, there is stuff like that. So I did go back and redo shooting gallery stuff, but I didn't replay the game. I just didn't. I played through it once, and I'm like, I'm good.
yeah,
And I think it's like you said, it doesn't have the arcadey quality because it went for the more atmospheric. You are being a little bit more conservative with your ammo. There's not a science any longer to the damage that Ganados take. It does kind of borrow a little bit from RE2's sort of random RNG health bar ness on enemies because you can have a fully upgraded pistol and you're not guaranteed a head flinch if you shoot them in the face.
right. Yeah, it's not as bad as RE2 though. Definitely, RE2 was
No.
frustrating.
RE2 was bizarre. And I really liked RE2 Remake. It's a good game, but holy crap, that RNG health bar on any regular zombie was a little bit like, what?
Yeah, no, thank you. Um, but my next game is also a little bit, I think, obvious. I think none of these games are going to surprise anybody except maybe my game of the year, but probably not. Hi-Fi Rush at number 6 for me.
Yeah,
It's
the shadow drop beauty of 2023 came out real early, came out in January, came out murdered for spoken.
not only yeah, God, oh man, I forgot about Forspoken.
Yeah, I'm sure. Of course you did. Everyone did. Nobody remembers that game came out.
I'll
This game shadow dropped on it, killed it, and then killed the studio,
I'll
and
put
then killed the engine it ran on for good measure.
Forspoken's my number 8, guys, for sure.
Yeah.
Just, um, no, I didn't play anything of Forspoken, so I shouldn't judge it. But Hi-Fi Rush being on my top 10 isn't necessarily because I think it's an excellent game. It is a great game. Like I really enjoyed playing it, but I also just want more games like that from good
Right.
studios. Like I no hate to indies, uh, but I sort of miss when bigger, better studios
Or
did
at least
projects like this.
studios with money behind them.
Yeah, just
Studios
like
with
did
backing,
well, yeah, I guess better's not the right word, but like you
like
know what I mean, like
backing,
it,
I guess.
where like you have a studio that's just like a really high quality studio, and then this is a passion project that we just pumped out over here.
Mhm.
I want more of that. I think shit like that is so
Well,
cool.
there's also a sort of because it's not just humor. Because like, yes, there's a character who does like say crazy JoJo, but it poses,
Mhm.
and that's one thing. But this is a game that sort of homages other video games. There's a lot of other video game Easter eggs in the game. And everyone who
Right.
knows me knows I flip my shit out when you get to a point in the game where the main character has this crazy plot he needs to execute to go steal this cannon to launch him into the final area.
Yeah. Yeah.
Rather, because so you're like, all right, well, here's the next level, right? No, like, so the game then decides we're going to parody the fuck out of Xenogears. So we're going to do the whole thing of a character sitting in a chair and on a black screen with a little just an image behind him. And we're going to have like his iPod or his little Walkman swinging in the background. So we're just going to do this whole thing where Xenogears ran out of time. So they had to visual novel and just have these long character monologues where they're just sitting in an empty room in a chair talking about what they did.
Yeah.
So the game was like, wait, well, you know what? Hey, we had this whole game. We don't have time to make this level. What do we do? Oh, I got an idea. Let's parody this other video game that like had to do this and make it kind of like an in joke.
Yeah.
So they're kind of like homaging other video game and other video game development who came into similar, time constraints and resources, whatever.
Well, this
And
this
they're just having fun with it,
it goes back to one of the main things that I'm talking about with it. Like, it felt like devs making a game for themselves.
Right. Yeah.
Like, oh, we just wish this existed in the world, so we're gonna find out we're just gonna do it. It's sort of the reason why, like, you love Link's Awakening, right? Like, Link's Awakening is that similar, like, I'm just gonna do this.
Yeah, because it was made after hours as a sort of after club thing amongst devs. We're just kind of like, yeah, let's make a Game Boy game. I want to try this thing.
Right, and it's like, you can sort of feel the love in it in a lot of ways. Like, it's just a goofy, good game. I don't know. And I also, granted, I like The Last of Us, but I don't need every game to rule my life.
Mhm.
I don't need to make my personality every frigging game that comes out. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want a game that dominates, I don't know, every waking minute of theories about the story and such.
Mhm.
Hi-Fi Rush was like a game you could sit down, you could play, and it was just a great time, but it didn't dominate your thoughts for the next 6 weeks. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
because
There wasn't discourse. I'm tired of discourse. Which, I mean, granted, podcasting is all discourse, so I guess what the fuck.
well, I mean, here's the thing: you only have time and energy, and really, you only have energy in anyone's life to really be that like hyper involved, obsessed with so much, right?
Hmm.
Which makes it when a game comes out and it's just hey, here's this game. It's level based. Got 10 levels. It's just this fun time. I don't need you to commit to it.
Right.
I just need you to have fun playing it. And again, I think that's what a lot of people miss about it, because like there was a lot of people saying like this feels like an original Xbox era video game, where when companies would just have wild ideas and just throw it out there.
Yeah.
Obviously there's the Jet Set Radio comparisons, like aesthetically and stuff like that, and they're not necessarily wrong. It's more of a character action game than anything. It has this really crazy weird rhythm, um,
Combat.
gameplay hook.
Yeah.
Yeah, rhythm combat gameplay hook, which is not important, but it's also kind of like it's kind of fun to try to attack to the beat and whatever.
And you're rewarded to it. Yeah. You're
Yeah,
rewarded
and that
for
was
it.
the important thing. It wasn't like because there's the Crypt of the Necrodancer and other like-minded indie titles where you have to play to the rhythm. You have to move and attack to the rhythm. Otherwise, your character just stands there and does nothing. And so the game becomes like you got to be rhythmically oriented to do this, otherwise you will not be able to enjoy it. Hyper Rush doesn't do that. Hyper Rush is like it's there, and you're rewarded for playing in beat and sync. But
And
like
the whole world moves with it. And yeah.
right, but it's not like I'm not going to be able to. You're not. It's not a thing where it's like you can't move unless you move in time with rhythm. It's like no,
Right.
it plays like a video game and it feels nice. And again, it is one of those things. It's like yeah, we need more of this, please. More in and as we're seeing in a world of like absolutely ballooning budgets, and then we don't know what the budget of this game is, and probably was actually not cheap, honestly, because again, it is a well-known studio, who, you know, from a big
Yeah.
publisher owned by a bigger corporation, whatever. I don't think it was cheap necessarily, but I also don't think this probably had the budget of, say, God of War or Spider-Man. So, uh,
It's $1 billion.
yeah, so part of me just kind of feels like, yeah, I kind of don't mind having a nice bite-sized arcade fun, colorful, guys. The other thing, colorful. We were still in even in 2023. Like a lot of games don't necessarily have the color palette of Hi-Fi Rush.
And a lot of games want to be like serious. They want to be
Yeah,
very serious. And Hi-Fi Rush was just like, now we're going to be goofy and fun.
goofy and fun is something that usually only indies try to do anymore. Like you just don't
I
see
know.
goofy. Like maybe with WarioWare games from Nintendo or whatever, right? But like you just otherwise don't really see from anyone really, any of the big people anymore. Goofy Fun is just kind of like out of style or something. I don't know. It's
Well,
probably
maybe
because game.
Spider-Man 2 would have won a fucking award if it was a little bit goofier, is all I'm gonna say.
Ooh.
It's just like, oh, all right. Everything's so serious now.
Oh man. Oh man.
I know. I waited until we were deep enough into the episode that I don't think any haters are listening this far. Someone's
Whatever.
gonna do
It's a really good game. I don't think it's as good as because some people are like, this is the savior of video game. I'm like, well, hold up. Wait a minute. I don't think this is like the greatest thing that's ever come out. I just think it's a nice, refreshing change of pace. I don't think it's as good as say like the best of Capcom or the best of Platinum, but it's up there.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't even really think about it that way. It's just like it's something that I want more of.
Yeah.
I don't know. I want more fun.
Yeah, just want more fun.
All right. Now I'm into like Baldur's Gate 3, which I have 3 different groups. I am in 3 different campaigns.
Played none of it. I've never touched this game. This is game of the year game, and I've not touched it.
You know, the thing is like if you have a group that wants to go through it, you're gonna have a good time doing it. But I think if you don't like tabletop RPGs, you can skip it. You just don't. You're not gonna enjoy it. Like, yeah, okay, you don't have to actually like pretend to be your character.
Well, there is sort of a beauty in a game that just embraces what it is fully and is like, I don't really care about making this accessible to like the Madden crowd.
Right. And I think one of the other things that's really beautiful about it is like if you're really not into improv, if you're like really like you've always wanted to play a tabletop RPG, but the acting side of it, or like you're really shy or some of that, like you can totally get this is the tabletop experience in a lot of ways.
It's the tabletop experience for introverts?
Kind of, yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's how I would describe it. That's how I described it to like my brother, friends. Like Phil likes he likes D&D and stuff like that, and he's not like that introverted, but for friends that like don't want to like act out a character, and granted, yes, you don't have to act out your character. You can just say like, oh, I'm going to do this and we're not going to play characters. But half the fun of D&D is like getting into character and goofing off and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, like one of my favorite tabletop experiences was I met a group of people. I guess and the one guy knew who I was from podcast and YoVideogames. If you're listening, shout out, dude. You remember when we ended up going down to the game room and we got a tabletop. It wasn't D&D. It was kind of one of those like single session.
Oh yeah, like one shots. Yeah,
one shot kind of thing. And we played this tabletop game. And I was like, I wasn't Amon Ra, but I was like, it was like a name that was like Amon Ra, God of the Sun. And I just kept every time it was my turn, to roll the dice or like make a move. I'm like, I'm the God of the Sun. I cannot be stopped, like whatever. Or like I summoned the sun.
In my current campaign, I'm playing an older boxer that has brain damage from all the fights he's been in.
Yeah, so I'm basically like this Maximilian Zeus character, if anyone knows that
obscure
Batman, and that obscure Batman villain or whatever. That's basically how I played it off. God, that's such a nerdy deep cut.
But that's the Baldur's Gate 3 is the nerdy deep cut of games. And it won Game of the Year. We don't have to go that far into it.
I don't know how much to say. I'm just happy. Again, I was very happy it won. I was like, I kept saying good, because it's in some people's mind independent technically, but it's a game that was made hilariously enough. Like there kind of was oversight, but like everyone from Hasbro or Wizards of the Coast that worked
now.
That worked with them on Baldur's Gate 3 or have been fired or laid off.
Yeah.
Like that, like I don't know. Maybe we're making I'm making enemies here, but like, damn, how did that happen? But yeah, like the studio itself is not owned by anyone. They self-published. They basically like they weren't beholden to shareholders or anything like that. It was made the way a big AAA game needs to be made. They just make it and no one sits there and questions them or like wonders, is there enough microtransactions? Is this going to hit the demographic? Shut up! Like
And it honestly, they got really lucky. They got super lucky. I
they
don't
did
know.
get lucky.
Yeah, I don't know that anyone else is going to be able to pull it off the way they pulled it off.
I don't know if anyone's going to learn from it. My guess is probably not. But I mean, it's just nice to see that for all the market analysis, all the like you know trying to like make a science out of an art that the companies do to make these big budget
Right.
AAA games. It's nice to see that someone was like, no, we just made this big nerdy D&D campaign that people really wanted. We didn't listen to anyone else.
We did the thing that we've done before, but we did it to the maximum.
And that's kind of a nice Cinderella story too,
Yeah.
where it's like they asked to do it, and then D&D license holders like, nah, prove yourself. All right, we go and make Divinity 1 and 2. We proved ourselves. I'm like, all right, oh, darn, okay, yeah, go ahead, see what you can make.
And then they broke the world.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, crap! This is amazing. Like,
I think we're going to
so,
see some weird stuff in the coming years, sort of aping them. Maybe,
well,
but
I mean, how you gonna? Well, who's gonna top bear sex?
you know what?
I don't even
I
know
don't
the
know.
context about that, but I know Xbox just commented on that officially today. So
Yeah, you get a little frisky for the
because they
bears got big ol' asses.
showed the elf character, the guy who won, what was his name, Neil. He won the best
Oh, the vampire.
performance,
Yeah, yeah.
and they're like, the smile, and then the reason is just the bear.
The bear. Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
And Xbox commented on that, and people were like, "What?" Like,
All right, I've got an interesting. I've got an interesting. I think this is also on your list, but I have an interesting choice, and I'm not sure anybody would see this out of this here. But my number 4 is Amnesia: The Bunker.
yeah, I told you about this game.
You did. You told me about this game. I technically didn't buy it. It was on Game Pass, wasn't it?
Yep.
Did I buy it? No, yeah, no, it's on Game Pass. I don't think I ever would have played it had it not been on Game Pass. I like the other Amnesia games.
Just strange because I never touched them. This is the only Amnesia game I've ever played.
Well, this one has combat, and the other ones, as far as I remember, didn't have combat at all.
Mm,
You were just running away trying to avoid things and stuff like that.
yeah.
This does have similar themes of like, oh, you're losing your mind. But this I didn't expect to like it as much as I did. And I won't it's not like the prettiest game, or it's probably not even the scariest game, or I just really love historical games that like they stuff a story into a moment. They'll go like, here's this horrific moment in time, and here's this little extra bit of horror that, spoopy happened in the midst of this huge thing, and it's lost to the age, like that kind of thing, like lost history type.
Yeah.
I really enjoy stuff like that. And I also just really love the way that they did it. I don't
Mhm.
I don't know if anybody
So
cares about spoilers, so I'm not gonna.
well, the thing is, okay, so people are gonna be like, "What the heck is Amnesia: The Bunker?" Like, 'cause no one's talking about this game. Like, nobody talked about this game whatsoever.
Yeah.
And it's funny because it's to me, it's like such a pure, like back to its roots, pure survival horror style,
Yeah.
where the design of the game is, it very much think like RE1, remake or whatever. Here's your mansion, and you have like your center hub, which is like the entrance of the mansion, and then there's all the things that sort of branch off from that point, or like you have your safe room, and then you kind of go into all these other points
Right.
of this, and so probably not a lot of people. So Amnesia: The Bunker is a World War I survival horror game. You're
Yep.
playing as, I guess you wouldn't call them the Allied. I think you're playing as a French troop.
You're a French
Um,
soldier named Henri.
you're a French soldier who you start the game in trench warfare. At some point, very quickly, early on in the game, you get knocked out, and when you wake up, you're in sort of like a bunker. Obviously, and the bunker. You're in a medical ward of a bunker, in somewhere in the trenches, and as you very quickly discover, they've barricaded, they've destroyed the exit out of the bunker. So you're trapped down in this it's not a huge labyrinth, but it's basically like, hey, they had this underground bunker facility. It had like a mess hall. It had bunk rooms, a med facility. It had a prison cell. It had all this other stuff down there, right? And you're trapped down there, and then you find out why you're trapped down there, and it's kind of terrifying. So something happened, and something happened to all the people, all your comrades down there too. And you slowly unravel this mystery, and there is a omnipresent thing that's hunting. There is a nemesis like creature,
Yeah.
if you will, and that's like it's throughout the whole game. It's always there, and it's always something you have to deal with. And that's your kind of gameplay hook, is like you have to go find your key items and key things, because you're basically, your main quest is to get out of the bunker, is to I mean, not too much of a spoiler, but it's to blow a hole, in the former entrance of the bunker. So you have to find the dynamite, and you have to find the ignition, like, the plunger device to get your, to blow your way out of the bunker. That is your setup, is get out of the bunker, because something is down there.
And
Something
there's
and,
a really cool story buried within.
yeah, and yeah, and again, and the other hook is that you don't have, you have this World War One era pull string. You have a flashlight that you use kinetic energy by like ripping a string to zzz, to make the fan
Right.
like charge it to get this very dim light. And then there's a generator down there, and the generator requires fuel, and the generator can run out of fuel. So you have to like very carefully plan your movements throughout this underground maze, this if you will, kind of like the mansion, this area. You fill up the generator, you turn on the generator, and then you go, try to solve everything you can. The reason why it's scary is there's something down there, and that something down there likes darkness a whole lot, and it doesn't like lights,
Hmm.
which is why you can't just go around just using it, because again, using the flashlight creates noise, which is not good. And so you have to be very, very careful about when and where you move. There is RNG elements to item placement.
Hmm.
So, because there are things in behind lockers that to get the code could be, they could be in one of various different places. So you're not going to get necessarily the same game every time. You can't actually speed run it too much. You can speed run it well. There's a glitch. I've seen the glitch, but it's like it's an out of bounds glitch. But again, it's pure survival horror.
Yeah, it's old. It feels old school survival horror.
Yeah.
And it's something that I've talked about. We talked about it the other day, where we're all like, horror games. It feels like a lot of horror games have gone the arcadey route, and very few games have they either choose to go like arcadey action horror, or they choose to go like avoid, like that outlast, hide from whatever it is horror. There's not a lot
Yeah.
of like down the middle true blue survival horror where you have a limited amount of resources and you have to figure out how to do the fight
Yeah.
to survive. And this feels like such pure
and and
survival horror.
and there is like a speed run element where it's like, once you figured out, you can die and then you reload a save, and it's like,
Mhm.
oh, but I know where this thing is now, so you can actually go do the thing you need to do way faster than the first time where you're bumbling around in the dark. And it was really funny to hear how um like, people who watched my playthrough were like, wow, I can't believe how many encounters you had with the main thing. I'm like, I watched other playthrough, and yes, I saw it like 2 or 3 times. You were just seeing it all the time. Like, you were a loud person. I was like, "Yeesh." Like,
Uh,
I had a heart pounding experience because I'm clumsy. So I had this even, it was even worse for me because I constantly was alerting my presence, because I'm so bad at stealth. I hate stealth in video games to such a vicious degree that I had a terrifying I had a nonstop encounter rate, with the baddie in this game, versus
oh
other
no.
people who are like very careful and like they never see the thing because they're super conscious about what they do. But then there's like moments in the game where it's like, to get like something, a key thing, you're gonna have to make some noise or whatever. So you're gonna have to plan your escape real fast after you do whatever you need to do. So like, yeah, it's not just like, oh well, if you play really smart and slow, you'll never see it. No, there's going to be moments where the game forces you into an encounter. um
So I had an interesting. I like stealth games, but whenever something goes wrong, I then immediately go full into like fuck it, wing it mode.
Yeah.
And so like I had a part where I was being really stealthy and then like I wasn't using my flashlight and I bumped into something and caused a bunch of noise. And so just like I had this fuck it, wing it, where I'm like cranking on the thing and running and just like basically every few seconds just re-cranking the thing like it's like, oh, we made noise. We're making all the fucking noise now. I remember doing that and like sitting next to Elise and like and her just being like, I've never seen anybody get suddenly so frantic. Like, you're just like, oh, it's all bad. It's all bad. Break it all down. Although the first time you see, I don't know. Yeah, it's the first time you see the monster with the guy smoking a cigarette. Like that's pretty early in the game.
Very early, yeah.
When the hand reaches out, I was just like, oh, nope, 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 nope. Did you shoot the monster in that moment? Yeah, I shot the monster.
That moment, maybe.
I shot into the hole.
I mean,
I wasted around. Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. I can't say I was smart about my playthrough at all.
No, I was a dipshit. I was a big
but
dummy.
I was proud of myself because I correctly guessed a late like end of the game thing that you can do. It's an optional thing to do, and I correctly surmised something, but I used the item in the wrong place. So then I thought, oh, I guess it's not that. And then people watching were like, no, you were right. You just did it at the wrong. I'm like, oh, really? I'm like, yes, it's. Oh, cool. Yeah.
You talking about the fuel?
No.
About the kerosene canister. Oh, okay.
I was talking. Well, yeah, it would almost be spoilery just to say what it is. But there's an item you can use for distraction, very specifically. And I was like, I surmised this would work.
Right. But okay, yeah, Amnesia the Bunker. Get out there, get it.
Yeah, if you like, I mean, it's. I think it's just setting, man, and I think that's what's hurt a lot of survival horror, just for me personally, because everything is like, like we do a lot of either spooky cabin in the woods. We do a lot of zombie apocalypse now, and we do a lot of zombie apocalypse, a lot of just ghosts in an abandoned whatever. But this one is like a World War I bunker with more to uncover there too. And crazily enough, it's pseudoscience, but like there is a scientific rationale for why everything goes on in the game.
Yeah, well, yeah. There's a very cool undercurrent story, and it's a circular story. You'll get to the end and you'll be like, oh fuck. When you figure out what the monster is and that kind of stuff, like it's very cool. But going into more pseudoscience, we'll jump over to Starfield, my number 3.
I played this game,
and it is.
I actually played it.
It's good. I don't agree. So when it first came out, a bunch of people were all like, "You want to burn through the first playthrough because then the game opens up." I actually disagree. I think you should.
Did you do a full playthrough?
I did. Yeah.
Okay. So you know why people might have said that?
Yes.
Okay.
And I don't necessarily care about spoiling it because it feels like, at this point, if you haven't played it, I don't know what you're doing. But because we have avoided being spoilery about even like RE4, I'll avoid it here. All I'll say is the game opens up in a very cool way when you beat it the first time. And then it's a way of trying to get you to have replay value.
I personally think it's kind of a clever post game twist, I guess.
Yes.
I don't know.
I don't care. I have only replayed, I don't know, halfway through a second replay because I did all the shit I care about in my first playthrough. I enjoyed it. Like, I immensely enjoyed it. I have no reason to like do it all over. Now there's cool aspects of doing it all over again, of replaying, without giving away any of the hooks. There's no way that I can explain to you the cool aspects of it, but I'll say that replays, certain characters are different and certain things are different each time you play the game over. And with the explanation of in the game, but it's pretty cool.
The nicest thing I can say about this game, because I am just not a Bethesda guy, this was probably one of their most polished at release games I've played.
Yeah, I mean, I really didn't run into that many glitches at all.
I almost am afraid
Or
to say
bugs,
this
rather.
because of console warring, because I don't care about console warring, but I'm just gonna say, like, pound for pound. But granted, I played one all the way to completion, and I definitely didn't play Starfield to completion. I definitely saw more bugs happen in Spider-Man 2 than I saw in Starfield, which is not something I would have ever thought I would say.
Yeah.
But again, I played Spider-Man 2 to completion. I played Starfield for a few hours maybe, and was like, nah.
Oh, you didn't even really get to when the game truly opens up. Then,
I got to the Explorers Club. I got initiated into that or whatever, and I'm like, this is. And here's the thing, like, I was just like, this is boring. I don't care. Like,
so there's real cool. Like the game opens up each side quest. There's side quests that are whole campaigns that have like world-ending. Like consequence.
And I've heard about that from because I had a friend who reviewed the game, and it was kind of, I was actually fascinated to hear, the things he would show me or the things he would tell me about the game. And I'm like, wow, that's actually kind of neat. Oh, that's actually pretty cool.
And it literally opens up just after where you stopped.
Right. But the thing is, my thing was, frankly, the gunplay felt awful.
Really?
Like it felt Fallout awful. So I was like, I don't know, because some people are like, well, that's because you only had low level guns. And I'm like, well, the gunplay felt like crap, and I mean, it just, the look of the game was boring as hell to me. Like, I don't know, like, just nothing was sinking its hooks into me at all. Like, it was just, I'm like, well, I think this is going to be a game that for Bethesda fans, they're going to love it, because it's a Bethesda ass Bethesda game, and it doesn't have crippling bugs every second.
Yeah, see, I thought the gunplay was better than they've done in a long time. I didn't think that it was like Call of Duty gunplay, but because there were some reviewers that were like, "Oh, it's like Call of Duty gunplay." It wasn't that.
Well, there was this weird thing where it's like, okay, you'd shoot a person, and then
they'd have no reaction. Yeah,
no reaction, or they flinch once, and you just keep shooting them, and they're not gonna flinch or get into a stun lock or whatever. They're just like, oh, the person got hit, initiated the stun animation. No matter what you do to that person after that, they finish their stun animation, and then they go right back to shooting you,
right?
Kind of thing. Like, things have this very janky, like, programming code is like writing itself in front of you feel, where it's like, I've been hit by bullet. I will do my, ow, that really hurt. Okay. Ba ba ba. That really hurt. I don't. Okay.
Yeah.
Ragdoll. Like, initiate ragdoll. Like, HP bar drained.
I got like a pretty good weapon pretty early on, where like I went hunting for it down off of some random planet and got a pretty good weapon, and I accidentally spoiled a major plot point. Well, I didn't spoil it. I just figured it out like immediately because of the gun that I was using. And I'm going to just say the gun did headshot damage specifically to humans. It did 30% extra headshot damage to humans. And so the first time I ran into this certain thing, I killed it in 3 hits. And it's supposed to be a bit of a fucking bitch of a fight. And instead, I just dropped it. And like, I was like, oh, okay. And so when it came, I was like, oh, what is it? I was like, I know what it is. I basically called the story, I don't know, 4 or 5 hours in. I don't know. There's nothing. Yeah, Starfield being my number 3. Is it going to be everybody's favorite? No, but I very much enjoyed it. I think
if you like Fallout in general, I think if you like, but you like something, because the game is touted as what, NASA porn or whatever. I think if you like this general aesthetic, if you like the setup and premise, and you generally like the way Bethesda games are structured, I think you're going to have a really good time.
And I liked building ships, and
I don't follow into the whole sour grapes thing about, oh, this game wasn't as good as or the console warring, where people try to like downplay I know I
Right.
compared it to Spider-Man 2, but it's like Spider-Man 2 is also a good game. I said there's more about Spider-Man 2. Here's the thing: I have Spider-Man 2 somewhere on my list somewhere. I don't have Starfield on my list, so I enjoyed Spider-Man 2 more. Whatever, but I'm just saying that it was buggier.
They both equally lacked personality.
Well, Bethesda games always lack personality. Like their personality comes out as scripted as Todd Howard's speeches.
Before we get anybody too mad at us, we'll move on. The Bethesda boys and the Spider-Man 2 bros just equally pissed. They just hate me so
Yeah,
much.
whatever. They're both great games. Like enjoy them.
My number 2 is Final Fantasy 16. As a shock to nobody, I think it's the first Final Fantasy in a long time for me that I actually really liked.
It's the first Final Fantasy since 7 that I actually went out of my way to kill the big bosses. Like
right.
the super bosses in. I don't do that in Final Fantasies. I barely get to the end of a Final Fantasy anymore.
You can really tell that this was made by the Final Fantasy 14 guys. But
Yeah.
because I liked Final Fantasy 14, I just don't like MMOs, so it didn't hold me. But it was good. The combat was great. Obviously, that's not a surprise. It was Platinum that made that did the combat.
Yeah.
But
Well, they did 2 of the boss fights, and then the lead combat designer of Devil May Cry 5 got poached to do the combat for the whole game.
right,
And
that's
then
right.
and then there was people from the Kingdom Hearts team who did a boss or 2, and so yeah, like they actually had other studios do certain summon boss battles.
The thing is I feel like you can tell that when you think about it. You can tell that it's different people that did
Mhm.
different bosses.
Yeah.
Because certain bosses are a bit of a slog in terms of how much you have to do to get through them.
Mhm.
If I'm being completely honest, and I did really love the game, bosses took so goddamn long. They just took too long in a lot of cases.
Yeah, there's certain ways you can sort of minimize that if you very specifically spec into certain
Right.
ability. Still though, yeah, like they
It's
did do
obnoxious.
things to make characters not let you just roll over a boss in no
Yeah.
matter what, because it has like a pretty low level cap. I think it's like 50 or something is like the max level you can get.
Yeah,
Like
it's not high.
it's not high. Like I mean, it's weird because there's things people don't like. The things that people don't like about the game is kind of things I do like about the game, mostly pertaining to like combat and just all that general vibe and feel. And then some of the things people love about the game I felt were kind of on the weaker end, but
Like
whatever.
the story?
But yeah, like the story and characters are not great.
The story is pretty weak. It's pretty weak. I don't know why.
Yeah, and then there was like because they always have an Ultimecia, which is like sort of like their strategy guide slash behind the scenes book that comes out in Japan after the game comes out, and they talked about all the detailed backstory stuff. And I remember people like, wow, it really spans the character so much. Like you really feel like I kind of wish that was in the game to make me care. Like
I find it weird when people are all like, yeah, this is like a Japanese Game of Thrones. And you're all like, well,
it was for about 5 hours, kind
yeah,
of, and then
but
it kind
very
of just
top level. Like,
very surface level, and then it went
yeah,
away.
surface level. Yeah. And then they were just like, all right, enough of that. And went back to like normal Final Fantasy type stuff. And it's not like I'm like a George R. R. Martin's the most magnificent writer, but the dude's an intricate writer. Like he's a pretty intricate writer, and this was not an intricate story. It's not.
No,
But it's good enough to get you to do the things, and the gameplay and the game and the music. Great.
yeah,
Love that game. Also, I mean, Clive is just very cool looking. He is
Clive's a
very
very
cool.
cool looking protagonist. He's got a voice, good voice actor,
Yeah.
Ben Starr. I know, like a lot of people were really hoping he'd win performance of the year or whatever. He did a great job. He did a great
Yeah.
job. I'll be real though. I feel the voice acting was great across the board, but kind of wasted because I don't feel the story was all that phenomenal in 16. It was there. Like
It was fine.
well, the thing is, I'll say that and again, Final Fantasy is on my list, but I will say that it was like there were like 3 types of stories that didn't know what it wanted to be. There was the Game of Thrones, which was very surface level, went away. There was Metal Gear Solid 5, the whole like liberation base thing, Robin
Yeah.
Hood esque, Soldiers Without Frontiers thing, kind of. And then there was the pure nutso balls to the wall fantasy bullshit. And there was a point where I was like, pick one, and they did. And I was like, okay, cool. We're just going with like the balls to the wall fantasy, crazy stuff. But it almost happened too late for me, where I was just kind of like, I don't care anymore. Like, there's a very specific plot moment in the game where something drastic happens, and it really kind of sunk my interest.
I wonder what it can you because I wonder if it was the same place where I just sighed.
Let's just say it's like when you switch bases locations, I guess
Yeah,
is one way to put it.
Yeah.
When your base moves to a different location, for reasons, it's kind of like, I don't care anymore.
There's a moment where like the game goes from Game of Thrones to like a sci-fi fantasy it's like a circle type thing, like where I just like sighed, where I was just like, I don't fucking care. I don't care anymore.
I don't care.
Still love it.
I'll just go fight some stuff.
Yeah, still love the game.
Here's the thing. All this kind of like whatever. We're saying all this crap about the story characters, whatever. Here's the thing. It was fun to play. It was fun to play, which I can't say for a lot of Final Fantasies are usually fun to play to a certain point, and then it's like you gotta do your taxes. I mean, min max your stats, or you gotta grind, or you gotta do something, or you're just like you just get to some point where it's like, well, from this point on, you kind of really gotta like expand this, or go grind out that, or go build up this, and then and I'm like, I don't know, like the pay. I don't think. Here's the thing: pacing in Final Fantasy games are always weird to me. Like they'll have this. We have this fucking wham bam opening. So the first few hours you're going to be hooked.
Right.
And then we're going to have this lull, and then there'll be like a midpoint oh shit moment, and then you just sort of like to keep you there. And then like the whole second half, like last third of a game is usually like padded bullshit until you get to the big climactic finish. So it's basically like you break it into third. The first bit of the first third is great, and then it's like padded, and then like the middle point is like we have this big middle point moment, and then after the middle point moment, it's kind of padded, and then we have a big climactic finish. I feel this happens a lot in Final Fantasy. I don't really. I don't. Final Fantasy will rake me over the coals. I don't care.
There's always like the first half or the first quarter always has like at least one or two big set pieces.
Yeah.
And then the midpoint will be a set piece. And then there's no other real set pieces. It feels like grinding until the final battle feels like a big set piece. This one I actually think was a little bit better because you had to go kill icons, which was always a set piece. Yeah, but I do think that the first half of the game is stacked, and the second half of the game is much less stacked.
That's the thing, is like they did this thing where it's like we're the icon battles are set pieces, so you're just moving from set piece to set piece, which is a kind of a good thing. But the problem is that even though it's much shorter, like the in between those set piece moments is a little bit like characters like
yeah,
and an outside observer pointed out, and it was very good where. The problem with this game is that the characters just kind of stand there and talk to each other, like, and the camera's just sort of like shot, reverse shot, through a lot of these dialogue moments, and it doesn't have a sort of dynamicness or whatever. So, and the dialogue,
it's an homage to George Lucas,
right? And so, like, it kind of does. And I thought about it, I'm like, I was literally, there were times where I was falling asleep listening to characters talk in this game, even if it was like plot relevant stuff, because it was like the in between the smaller minor like exposition or just general dialogue cutscenes. If it wasn't like some big, giant production cutscene that obviously they spent all their money on, it was so much like an anime in that sense, where they had these lavish cutscenes that they put all the budget into. And then all the dialogue cutscenes in the middle are just characters standing and talking to each other, like, just one to one. And it only hurt because of how lavish those pre-packaged cutscenes were. So that
I think that's the main reason kids especially played Final Fantasy in the 90s was it had the best FMVs. Like, it
Right,
had
because
the best
it was
cutscenes.
like
Yeah.
it really does, because again, it is a Final Fantasy game, so it really takes the idea of the FMVs of the PS1 era, and it's kind of like, yeah, we have these big, expensive cutscenes,
Yeah.
and then all the dialogue in between is like, but here's the thing, and I discovered this with Octopath Hard, all the Team Asano
Here's
games.
the context.
Here's the problem. When it wasn't voice acted and you're reading at your own pace, I can blitz through the stuff. And you can still do this in the game. You can still do this. But like when it's just the text boxes, no voice acting, I'm like, I'm reading it, I'm retaining it, but I'm also hearing the voices I want to hear in my head, right?
Mhm.
This one, it's like, okay, well, you can still cut through the text boxes in 16. That's a dumb argument. I'm like, but you know what it sounds like? Well, and then we just, and then it went, because you reading through the text boxes faster than they're speaking, that's what the speech ends up sounding like.
Yeah.
Every moment in the game is like, we should, I don't, and then blah, 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 blah. So
I
you just get all these like half sentences or half words. So it's like, I guess I could go into the menu maybe and then like turn off voice acting, but then I want it on for the lavish cutscenes. So again, I just I
because
don't know.
they only voice act like the first sentence of some of the text boxes too, right? Like they don't
I
say
think for
everything.
some of the really minor side quests, it's not voiced. I don't think. No, was it? I don't even
Yeah,
remember.
side quests, like, they might say the first one or two things, but otherwise it's not voiced. And so you might accidentally skip some of the voice acting to get through to the next thing. Yeah. I don't know. There is stuff that's a mess on it, but it is an
Mhm.
excellent game. And so it is number 2 for me.
It is still,
Um,
well, it's a fun game. I beat all the boss. I beat every monster, every wanted poster monster. I can't say I did that for any Final
yeah.
Fantasy for over 25 years. I can't say I've done that.
Yeah,
So,
I don't think I've ever, well, I don't know if I've 100% because I didn't do every single side quest, but
oh yeah, God no.
I did a lot of the side quests, especially anything that was story relevant. And I did the
And
all
there's
the
some
monsters, yeah.
and there's some weirdly story relevant side quests in that game.
Yeah, getting your chocobo.
Yes,
Like, why
right.
is that a side quest?
Why is that a side quest? Why is learning how to grow crops in the blighted land? Why
Right?
is that's a side quest? That feels like that's like critically important to the world.
Yeah, weird. Just all around, like, they made some decisions that I don't understand, but still, wonderful game.
You know what they did? They made it fun to play.
They did, and that is all that matters in a game. Story don't matter. We say it, we'll say it again, say it forever. Uh, but my number one is one where the story is confusing and does matter. It's Magoti, Alan Wake 2.
Yeah,
I did.
you're gonna have to sell me on this. Actually, I'm gonna need you for a video later sometime. You're gonna have to sell me on Alan Wake too. But take it away.
Okay, so you didn't play Alan Wake 1, or you did?
Did not.
Did not. This is a game where I'm not sure you're going to understand a goddamn thing if you didn't play Alan Wake 1.
Which
But
is which I've heard is not true. No, you could totally play this standalone. I'm like, can
oh,
I?
you can. You like gameplay wise, you can absolutely play it. It's just like there's so many. Like, I feel a little bit lost because I didn't play Control, and Control
That's
is
what
not an
I
Alan
also
Wake
heard
game,
that.
but it's an in between game, and I got to play that. Um, I went and got it because I actually, I think it was Max was all like, "No, you got to play it. It's all these references to it." Um, but Alan Wake 2 has that survival horror like vibe mixed with like Twin Peaks weirdness. And then on top of that, there's just moments that I don't think I've seen in a game in a long time. Like, there's a whole, I don't know, 20-minute, 30-minute stretch where that musical that they did at the Game Awards
Yeah.
is happening in this weird dream sequence in the dark place. So basically you're playing as an FBI agent, Saga, I'm blanking on her last name, but Saga, who's investigating in the real world and, having weird shit happen. And then you play as Alan, who's in the dark place. And Alan is writing things that are happening in the real world so that Saga can help him escape the dark place. And so there's two different types of logic happening. One, it's one of the prettiest games that came out this year. Game's fucking gorgeous.
Mhm.
It's amazing. Two, the combat feels very much old school survival horror. You've got to manage your resources. It's not terrible. Like, you don't have to like super manage your resources, but if you suck, you're going to have hard times all around. The investigation thing, some people I know sort of felt like it was tedious going into her mind and like investigating. I actually found it really cool, like having to piece together things yourself and paint this picture. And then again, that 20 to 30 minute sequence, I think it's only like 20 minutes sequence where like Alan's making his way through the dark place with a musical going on, and the musical is giving you like backstory and story of how you're going to like it's hinting at key parts of the story. I don't know, it's just like it's a very there hasn't been a game in a long time like this where like I feel like it just feels like it sucks you in. It's
It
unique.
sounds like it's shooting for the moon, like in a way.
Yes,
Like I'm trying,
every
conceptually, I'm shooting for the moon here. Like I'm trying to do something you've not seen before.
every chapter of that game feels like an episode of a TV show where they just went hard every single time. Like it just feels like they're just gonna give you like oh, you have a Twin Peaks weirdness chapter? It's gonna be the weirdest chapter ever. You've got like you got a nightmare sequence going on. Balls to the wall nightmare sequence. Like it's just a great game. And it's also a game that feels like it was written by a guy who wanted to tell a story about writing in a way, like
Right.
the goofiness of writing. And anybody who's done writing knows that it can
Yeah, I don't know if
swing.
that's going to come off as interesting or pompous.
Well, I mean, even if you don't care about writing, it just seems like an interesting, fun thing. But if you care
Yeah.
about writing, you can see that he's put a bunch of shit that like anyone who's ever done writing is gonna be like, oh yeah, I know them feels. Like, oh yes, I understand this. But even if you're not like if you've never written anything, you're still gonna enjoy the thing. I also like they went so hard on the graphics that and far be it for me to be like, oh, the graphics are everything, but they went hard on the graphic. Like it is a pretty game. And in a horror game, I sort of appreciate that more because a lot of horror games will like do shit out where they'll just be like, I don't want to make this pretty, make it dark. And this is dark. It is a dark game,
Hide it in shadow.
but it is objectively pretty. The only part of the game that I felt like was like overly dark for no reason, and it might have been my own calibration settings, was the first part of the game where you're running through the forest and it's very linear.
I've seen that in previews and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very linear and you get stuck on things because it's too dark, and that was annoying. And so once I readjusted, but like there's parts where you're playing as Saga and like there's neon lights and rain and it's just like gorgeous. It's ridiculous. If you didn't play the first one, I don't really know how to sell you on the second one because I feel like the first one is that hook. The characters are weird. Like it depends on how much you like weird. I wouldn't say there's any part of the game that truly is scary as much as it is like weird and spoopy. You know? And like a weirdness, like a David Lynchian weirdness, permeates the whole game. And I mean the darkness is scary, but you don't really get scared of anything. So you're not gonna
I get scared of bears. Bears scare me.
Yeah. There you go.
That's why I can't play Baldur's Gate 3.
I don't know. You could get a fear boner. Then you're just making love to that bear. Making sweet, sweet love to that bear. Alan Wake 2, game of the year, but Baldur's Gate 3, contender just because you can fuck a bear. All right, we're an hour into the episode and we're finally getting to year 10. We're doing an extra long episode for the holidays. And again, if you want the runners up, you gotta head over to Patreon.
Yeah,
And
so there'll be
it'll be a
some
side quest later.
crossover. Like I said, there's some crossover. We don't have to like go into them. We already talked. My number 10 for the year is Amnesia: The Bunker. We already talked about it.
Hell yeah.
Number 9, I don't know how I feel about this. I'm conflicted if this should even be here because it's an early access title. And it's Lethal Company.
I haven't played it, and I don't know why everybody loves it.
Well, it's a single dude game. You know, dude in his basement made the game.
Yeah.
And it's just a very well executed design philosophy. Where it's a game. It's meant to be It's meant to be a co-op experience. It's meant to play with 4 people.
Mm-hmm.
And you basically you work in this sort of corporatist nightmare future where you're basically a scavenger. You work for the company. You have to go in. They've loaned you your ship. You have this little spaceship, and you have to pick a planet, go to a planet, scavenge the planet, sell the scrap you find to meet a quota by the end of 3 days. So you have 3 days to go to meet a quota, or they eject you into space. So the whole point of the game is pick a planet. You know, planets have different conditions that vary, you know, time of day, whatever. You go down, land on the planet, go in, you know, to whatever human settlement was on that planet and find whatever scrap material you can. It seeds the planet every time you go down on it. So the planet itself is always the same, but the inside is always RNG of the facility. So the whole point of the game is you and your buddies go to a planet, try to find as much stuff, and then get out. However, it RNGs everything, including again the layout of the interior of the human, whatever this human settlement was. It's just like some big industrial complex. Anyways, not only is the layout randomized, the enemy spawns are randomized as well. So, and there's basically every enemy has a specific type of logic to it. So there's spiders, there's these things called thumpers, and if you scan them, you can go into your ship's log and it gives you a detailed, you know, breakdown biologically of this creature, like how, you know, what it is and how it exists, whatever. But then you just get weird stuff too, where there's like these messed up like robot like coil head things. They act like boos, where if you're looking at them, they freeze in place, but if you're not looking at them, they charge at you full speed to kill you. There's these weird ghostly creatures that you know, they'll if you advance towards them, they run away, but if you stare at them too long, they'll actually get agitated and like run up and break your neck. And like, yeah, like there is combat. You can buy shovels and there's stop signs you can find and you can smash things. But not everything can be smashed, or not everything like really has you don't really have the ability to kill everything. Spiders you can kill, head crabs. There's these like little like slugs that'll like sometimes be on the walls and they'll like wrap around your head and kill you, suffocate you to death unless someone smashes it off your head.
So there's not true combat, but you can kill some things.
They're not true combat. You can kill some things. It's mostly about the randomness. And then again, you're on every day is a strict time limit. It's not real time. It's like this 10-20 minute cycle. You land every day starts at 8:00, and then the ship will leave at midnight if you haven't got, you know, will automatically leave at midnight if you don't set it to leave on your own. However, by 5:00, I think 5 or 6:00, it becomes nighttime, and the surface of the planet starts getting way more dangerous. So, and then there's other things to contend with, like if it's a flooded planet, you have less time because the planet starts flooding. There's elements too where there's like you could land on a planet if you know this before you land on it if it's flooding or not. So it's basically like, oh, do I want to gamble this, or there's an eclipse where like nighttime creatures are out all the time, stuff like that.
I hate to ask this because I know it's sort of a loaded question, but what's the fucking point?
It's basically how far can I get? It actually takes a very classic, because the approach is like every item you find has a different value. So you take the item and you take it back to your ship, put it in the ship, and then you basically try to not die. So if you not die and you find a bunch of scrap, you go back on the last day or the 4th day technically, you fly to the home world and you deposit the scrap you find, you get a bunch of money. And that'll give you, you know, and then if you sell more than your quota, you can use that money to buy equipment, flashlights, walkie-talkies, shovels, etc.
Okay.
You can even buy weapons if you get enough money. So the thing is, like, how much money can I get? How high can I climb? Kind of thing.
That's
Before.
pretty cool.
And the winning feature of the game is the spatial audio. Because the one thing this dude, I don't even know who it is, one thing he did well was that you have this very brilliantly designed spatial audio. Your voice trails off the further away you get from someone. If you're in a canyon, it echoes. If you're inside, it has a different echo. Walkie talkies, have the whole walkie talkie mechanic where it's staticky and you have to hold down a button to talk into it. If you die, got cut off immediately. Like, care. No matter what you say, no one will hear you. You're dead. Kind of
That's
thing.
fantastic.
So
I do sort of love that.
So yeah, like when you're inside the buildings, you can hear people like echoing, through the hallways. If they're even if they're far away, it's like a very faint. You can try to you literally can try to like get people to find you by just shouting a lot, Marco Poloing it. Because it gets really dark. You're going into like abandoned human facilities. So but like yeah, it's basically just this very tense one more run, one more try. I want to try one more, like see if we could do it one more time. See how high you and your friends, how much money can you and your friends do? Because you run in, try to find as much stuff as you can, and then take it out. You
This
have a
sort of
limited amount you
reminds
can
me.
carry.
This reminds me of a not a better version, but a different version of like the GTFO, where like you and your friends are trying to like get shit done in a pit. Basically, you're
Hmm.
there. I think it's 4 of you, and you have
Yeah, I never played
limited
GTFO,
comms.
but maybe it's that. Maybe it is like that. But yeah, it's basically just this like, okay, well, you don't, because everything's randomized on the interior and the monsters, so you don't
Mhm.
know what you're gonna run into. You might run into, there's turrets sometimes you run into, landmines left behind that can kill you. Um, and then they get into like weirder stuff too. And there's a lot of hidden mechanics in the game too. Um, we were on one planet and we found another human, but it had like this mask on, and then like it looked at us, and then like it started to like reach its hands out, and we ran away and we left the building. We're like, all right, I don't know what that was, and then it came out the building and followed us home to our spaceship.
Oh no!
And then if it
Much-
kills one of you, it turns one of you into one of its own. But the crazy thing is, in the ship, you can look at the radar of everyone's like live feed monitor, and you can actually see where they are. Like you could like, oh, if I go to like Kenny's body, but Kenny got killed by this mimic, like it'll still show the mimic where it is and where it's walking towards and stuff.
So it has some elements, sort of like Phasmophobia.
I guess so, yeah, in some sense. You can find these masks too, and if you put the mask on and you wear it too long, you become a mimic.
Oh no!
Yes.
Oh no! Okay, I now I want to play this. All right, I can
It's
get down with that.
it's $10 on Steam.
Hell yeah!
It's early access technically. He's updating it constantly. Very low tech, obviously. Again, dude in his basement. I don't know how people feel. I don't know, whatever. It's our list. Who cares? Lethal Company's number 9. It's become a phenom at the end of the year. It's just very fun. It's very fun, and the more, and I found the game is way easier if the people you're playing with are taking it seriously. Like it becomes really easier the better you get along with your actual human friends, because oh my god, you have to coordinate as humans to be successful. And
Oh, so
that's
I'm never winning.
yeah.
All my friends be
Yeah.
dickheads.
Number, just to keep it moving, I guess. And Super Mario Wonder is my number 8. It's
Oh
another
hell yeah!
it's a 2D Mario. It took away griefing out of multiplayer, but probably for the better, honestly. It's great. It's way better than the new Super Mario Brothers games. This is one of those like, what more can I really say about it? It's good. I don't know if it's like Super Mario World, Mario 3 good. The music's good, but I don't know if it's like all-time classic. It's fine. The challenge is fine. It's just very good. A good solid 2D Mario. It's weird that I saw it on like TGA's Game of the Year, because I'm like, well, there's nothing I can really say that's bad about this game whatsoever.
But is it like excellent?
It is in a way, but here's the real
Okay.
problem. Here's the actual problem is that it's one of the oldest genres
Oh yeah.
in gaming. It's one of the
Yeah.
most classic genres, and it's done exceptionally well done. It is an exceptionally well done 2D platformer. And even despite the fact that every level has some weird twist where you get the wonder seed and some weird thing happens to the environment or whatever, you get some crazy, shenanigans going. Even with that, it's still very much like, hey, this is a really good 2D platformer, but there's so many good 2D platformers in existence. And they never went out of style either, if you know what I mean. Like, even if like the major publishers aren't making 2D platformers all the time now, it certainly didn't go away on the indie
Right.
scene at all.
Yeah,
So
you're never gonna not have a 2D platformer coming out sometime.
right, so it's very good, and I think that's why it's like 8 for me because it is good. It's very good, but it's also this was not a genre that was really starved for attention.
Right.
Like in a way, like, is it better than most? Sure. Is it the best 2D platformer? No. Like, okay, like for me, it's like, is this better than Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze? No, it is not. But it is very good.
Fair. Yeah.
So
Okay.
it's just very good. My number 7 was Hi-Fi Rush. Talked about
Hell
that.
yeah.
Uh, Number 6 is Super Mario RPG Remake, which is this one might just kind of fall into the weird bias because it is a full-on remake, but it's also like a nearly one-to-one faithful remake.
So it's really good. It deserves to be on the list, but it's almost like what's there really to talk about? Is that what you're like? How I felt about RE4, sometimes, kind of.
Yeah, like, but this is like down to the wire one-to-one kind of like remake. What they did add new boss fights, like new post-game boss fights to it. Um, so there's a smidgen of new content technically. And the new boss fights are all very gimmicky in a way where like you have to like do something you never would do in the normal game. So they're twists, I guess. The music has been completely redone from the ground up. So I guess maybe that's kind of like a nice thing too, where it's like, yeah, it was a Super NES game, and now they fully remade the game completely in 3D tech, but you don't have control of the camera or anything. But
So it's 3D, but it's still a fixed camera.
it's still a fixed
Yeah.
camera.
Okay.
But they did do a full-on remake of all the music, and they went over the top. Like Yoko Shimomura, went way, way over, over expectation to really remake this music. It sounds like the most glorious like Disney music. She went crazy, and they did add changes to the battle system, so they made it technically a little bit easier now, where there's now there's perfect blocks and perfect attacks. Because before there was like boost attacks, like, oh, if you time the hit right, you get a little extra damage, or you can block so you can like take less damage. But now they have perfect blocks and they have perfect attacks. Perfect attacks now do AoE, which
Oh.
is great. Does make the game easier, but hey, if you do a perfect attack, you can get an AoE where it like does a little bit of damage to every enemy around that enemy, and then you can get perfect blocks, so you can actually take no damage if you perfect block.
And
Um,
perfect block is probably the same timing as like a parry or.
yeah, but like a really precise parry. It's very, very good. They do this crazy thing where like if you do 5 perfect attacks, or not even perfect, if you do 5 boosted attacks where the timing is good, the music changes dynamically. It gets more hyped up the better like the combo of your timing is. So if you're just
I
killing the battles, like, it hypes it up like even more.
I don't know why I
Um,
like stuff like that. Like it's not necessarily the most impressive thing in the world to do, but
yeah, but
it
it's just like,
invests me.
yeah, it
Yeah.
informs you, oh, you're doing good.
Yeah.
So it just and again, like, this the strength of the game, because the game, just kind of came and went, like, came way late at the Super NES's life, right at the tail end of it. And it's oh my god, a breezy RPG, like a 15-hour RPG. You don't get those anymore, but it doesn't none of it feels short or cheap. Like, it's a full, you go do a full world map, you travel around the world, do all these different things, do all this different stuff, but none of it feels shortened or too fast, and none of it feels bloated either. So it's just like, it's of the Mario RPG games I've played, it's still my favorite. I think the soundtrack is by far still the best of all of them. But
how many Mario RPGs are there now?
it kind of depends on. Okay, so there's all those. There's a bunch of Paper Mario's that were RPGs, and then they're kind of not RPGs anymore. And then there was a bunch of Mario and Luigi games, which were Mario RPGs. Until the studio went bankrupt and Nintendo said, "I don't give an F about you. You can, you may die now."
I guess the Paper Mario RPG is probably the only one that I've played, probably.
Yeah,
because we didn't own a Super NES as kids, so
it's better than all of those. My personal feeling. I know people have a real big dick for Thousand Year Door, which is getting a remaster next year, so we'll see. But I don't know. This game is I don't know. Game is so good. It was just so good. Like playing a game start to finish, and just loved every minute of it. So that's why it's number 6, even if it is just a sort of remake. But it is a remake of a Super NES game. Okay, it's not like we took a 3D game from the GameCube or Wii or 360 era and remastered it. No, we took a Super NES game.
Right. It's not like it's a remake of a remaster of a remaster of a remaster
Exactly.
of a
Yeah.
It's
something that was gone for a long time. Number 5 was RE4.
Hell yeah.
Number 4, and then 5 and 4 really kind of like swap places a lot in my mind. And number 4, Liza P. I think talked about that a lot. That came out of nowhere from a South Korean developer, I think, who did a lot of music rhythm games. And then they just decided we want
to make Bloodborne.
Yeah, we want to make Bloodborne. We got tired of waiting around for Bloodborne, so they made Bloodborne via Pinocchio. It's Bloodborne by way of Sekiro because it's very focused on its parries. You know, it very much wants you to do staggers and parries. The combat's very much like, I want you to get down and gritty with it. They've strangely, and I think one of the things that maybe puts us over the edge, I mean, for the placement, is how fast the developers have been reacting, where they're like, hey, this is busted. I don't like this, whatever. And they're like, oh, we will fix that immediately. They took feedback from the demo. Everyone was saying the roll, because the game, I didn't have a problem because I'm like, oh, the game wants you to parry, so I'm not going to roll as much. But everyone who's so brain wired to Dark Souls were like, why is the roll not, the startup frames? Why are there so many startup frames on the roll? Roll should be immediate iframes. So they took that to heart and they're like, all right, iframes the hell out of the roll. Rolling is good now. They just did it for people. And then there was a big patch not even long after the game came out where they're like, these bosses have a lot of HP. And I was okay. I was dying at some of the big ones a lot. But they did this patch where they're like, all right, okay. So I think they're like, you know what? I think the bosses do have too much HP. And they did a big patch to like reduce the bosses, or at least just the damage output of some of them. And it's still hard, but they were very quick to like, okay, yeah, you know what? I think you're right. Like their feedback on the majority of what people were feeling was like, yeah, okay, yeah, we should change that.
This is a game I didn't expect to be good. Like I made jokes to the point of that, where like I also made jokes about it being forgettable. And then it came out, and then you were raving about it so much that I was like, oh. So it's one of those games that I haven't got to play yet, but genuinely surprised me how beloved it became so quick.
Yeah, it just. I mean,
it scratched an itch. It scratched
an itch. Like, is it derivative of FromSoft stuff? Absolutely. But like it's one of those like, well, if you're gonna copy it, just do it well. And it was like, okay, yeah, we'll do that. We'll just
do it well.
We'll do it well. Like they like they had like this really funny, post game interview where the director of the game, he was like, oh my God, I can't believe how much it did so well already right out the gate. I was like, we're gonna do DLC. I'm gonna do a sequel now. We're gonna get like he just was like super forthcoming about like, okay, this game is successful, so we're going to do stuff like, does that mean we're going to get, you'd better believe we're going to get a sequel. I'm not going to like wait to, so it's not like he didn't have anything to show for it. He's just like, guys, this game sold really well. We're going to make a sequel 100% now.
Hell yeah.
Like, which was kind of just, I don't know, like there's a part of me that's kind of like, I know people, I don't like it when they announce games too early. I'm like, this guy was just forward about like, we made a game. It sold really well. I'm going to make a sequel because of that. Like, I'm not saying the sequel's been in development or anything. I'm just like, okay, well, yeah, we made money on this. We can make we're going to do a sequel. Of course we are.
Yeah, I agree with people when they say like, "Oh, I hate it when they announce it years early." Um, but at the same time, like anytime a game does super well, you know there's a sequel coming.
Yeah. And they play all coy about it. I don't know. We don't know. Maybe it will. Maybe it won't.
Yeah.
Which is funny because Bloodborne, no
Ugh,
sequel,
and
no
never will.
sequel, no sequel for Bloodborne.
Like, what do you think? What do you think they did to piss off FromSoft so well or so much that they're just never going to do a sequel to Bloodborne?
I don't know. I think it's because they already had deals in place where it's like they made Bloodborne, but they also had Dark Souls 3 in development kind of at the same time. And they also had Elden Ring coming after that. So it was more just kind of like their schedule was full. And my guess is Sony just didn't want to wait around for them. They're probably like, all right, well, whatever. Like, I'm not gonna try to like bribe you into making a sequel ahead of all these other deals. And the company that owns them, people forget this. The people who own FromSoft is a massive, massive corporation publishing firm in Japan.
That's right.
So it's not something you can just, well, you're not that big. How about some money? It's like, no, my owner literally like runs the country behind the scenes kind of thing. So, but no, Liza P, very good. I was very, it was such a smart use of public domain, I guess is a way to put it. Like just because is it like
Oh,
the books? No, but the way it adapts things for a video game and for a FromSoft style thing, it's just very cool and very smart.
it's the exact reason why the public domain exists. Where
Mhm.
it's like new copyright laws have gotten so messed up that it's screwed up the public domain. But the public domain is supposed to be like, think about how much good stuff has come out from people creating based on the public domain.
Right, like
You
Del
know,
Toro's Pinocchio, and now we have Liza P. Pinocchio.
any of the good
Unfortunately,
Frankenstein movies, any of the good.
right. Unfortunately, we also have the the Disney live action Pinocchio, but
Yeah.
eh, you can't win them all.
We don't have to talk about that. We don't have to bring it down. We don't have to be downers like that.
I think Liza P is my big surprise of the year. Just wow, this is really good. This is really cool. This is really, I mean, damn. Like I'm excited for what you guys do next, and you weren't even on my radar before. So
Yeah, I
kind
guess
of
that's
cool.
fair. Hi-Fi Rush was my big surprise, but I feel like it was a surprise on purpose. So
Yeah,
it's hard to.
well, it was. I know who Tango is. I
Yeah,
Evil Within. I know these guys. Really just came out of nowhere. Super good. Number 3, Sea of Stars.
not
Indie dar
surprising. Yeah.
indie darling of the year. I think the two things I just let's try to keep it brief here. Number one, it focused on skill and quick thinking in combat. And this is why some RPG people kind of bounced off the game because there's barely any equipment. There's no stats, there's no min-maxing, there's no like using this spell or combination of this. It is basically like here's your character, this is their abilities. Everything's about Mario RPG style, like timing based attacks. Everything's about time based attacks, or specifically swapping a character in and out in battle. So this character comes in, they can do the stun lock the enemy, let you go. The other character come in and like do the thing to stop them from using their move.
Hell
Like
yeah.
it's almost action. It's a turn based game, but it's almost action oriented with how quick and precise you have to be with your timing constantly. They're very conscious. They said we didn't want to make a game with grinding. We didn't want to make a game with padding.
Hell
So
yeah.
the level cap is not high. There's no point in the game where you need to grind. You just need to be good at basically timing your hits and timing your blocks, and that's it. Um, so that is one. The other thing I'm beyond ecstatic about is as the environments being the pixel art, not
Oh
doing
yeah.
not doing the 3D 2D thing, committing hard to 2D, making the pixel art look amazing, making it look like a 32-bit RPG that we never got because the 3D push was so heavy. Just gorgeous pixel art, the music being phenomenal. Just really proving to me, and proving, I hope it proves to others that I'm like, I think we are underutilizing our composers here in the West. I mean, it's a Canadian-made game. Eric Brown's the main composer. I feel he really stepped up because he came from a techno metal industrial goth kind of background. He kind of dabbled in a lot of things like and chiptune. So he did chiptune, he did metal, he did like sort of industrial goth music. And then it's like, hey, can you make a JRPG that's going to have all these different like world sounds or whatever? Yes, he can do that. And you have to make a lot of themes too. It's not just like night themes, day themes, town themes, all these different area themes. And he really stepped up. And I'm like, you know what? I feel we are underutilizing the talents of our composers, especially in the Western gaming hemisphere here, because it's like here, this, we're making, a little indie developer in Canada is making a JRPG. They have their chiptune metal, a band member who did The Messenger, which was a very 8-bit and 16-bit throwback, ninja game. Can he do an RPG? Yes, he can do an RPG.
Well, it's interesting because this sounds like one big nostalgia bomb for you. Like this hits a lot of things that you really have talked about loving, not only when you were a kid, but just like generally growing up. Like it has the pixel art style that is clean and clear. Like I've only really seen screenshots and some let's play of it. But it seems like it has a very similar like Chrono Trigger, like
it wears its inspirations on its sleeve.
Right. And I don't like some people when they say nostalgia bomb, they think that's a bad thing or they say it like it's a bad thing. I don't think it's a bad thing. I think if that's the only thing about something, is the nostalgia, then it's like, ugh, it's just nostalgia. But I don't know, it just sounds like it's a good nostalgia bomb
It's
for
good.
you.
It's not super long either. I mean, it's got a good enough length that it's not too long, not too short. I'll say, I'll say straight up, like the story and characters are good, but they're not phenomenal. They're good. They're as good as they need to be. And to be frank, there's a lot of RPGs, a lot of JRPGs where the story is fine. Like
we talked about one.
Very
also
few of
in
them,
my top 10.
Right. Very few of them ever blow your mind anyways, to be honest. Very, very few game story blow my mind anyway. So could it have been better? Sure, I guess. But like it's also it's definitely on par with a lot of those Super NES RPGs. Story and care. Well, besides the big main, like, all-time classic, it's still good. I don't know. Like the characters are like, I mean, okay, I guess I should say the main characters are fine. They're like this weird in between. You know how they have like mute silent protagonists and then you have chatty protagonists like Cloud is a chatty protagonist, Chrono's a silent protagonist.
Yeah.
The main characters in Sea of Stars are basically this in between. So most of the big character development and characterization happens with the rest of your party, not so much the main party. They go through their stuff and they react to things and they talk, but they're not like there's not this big weird character arc that your main characters go through at all. They're kind of along for the ride, for the adventure. And I will say the ending is a little, maybe the DLC will fix this, but the ending's a little weird. I would say it's a little unsatisfying how it ends with the main story and main villain. The conclusion of that seems a little somewhat rushed, somewhat unfinished, but there is DLC coming, so maybe that's going to fix it. I don't know. Still very good though. It's definitely better than plenty of RPGs I've played, story and character wise. But yeah, that's my number 3 of the year, and I totally get why it's winning all the indie award of the Game of the Year awards because, yeah.
I mean, just on looks alone.
Yeah, number 2, Street Fighter 6. I think, and I've talked about this too. Street Fighter 6 was so important for fighting games. I feel like what it did, not just for Street Fighter, but for sort of fighting games in general, is so super important. Where, yeah, it saved Street Fighter from the dismal, well, 5 fixed itself over time after 5 years, right? But 6 was good out the gate. And importantly with 6 is that it really made the game fun because it had this literally Yakuza style world tour mode that
Right.
made the game fun for people who don't want to play online, who don't want to do all this other stuff. And then they had this whole lobby system with the battle hub. That's brilliant. Honestly, it's the first time I've seen a lobby system work. And then you don't even have to do that. You can just do regular old menu based lobbies.
I mean,
So
but the lobby system, in my opinion, is probably the thing that set it apart.
yeah, and then you can go in there and play old Capcom arcade games just for
Yep.
free. There's the game is one of the, it's just smartly designed. It's the best. It's probably one of the best Street Fighter, like core Street Fighter, since like the alphas or the third strikes or something. I don't know. It's just and that's saying nothing of the combat system. The whole drive impact stuff I think is great work. I know it feels good. I love the mechanics of the game. I love the universal parry system of the game, where you can just hold down the two mediums and the character will just stand in a parry state, which is great. I mean, it burns their meter out, but it also means you don't have to time it perfectly either. And
So
there's
it's much more gentle for us noobs.
I mean, you can do perfect parries if you time it just right on the hit, and then the game even like gives you like like a big whoosh. You did a perfect parry. I don't know. There's just everything about it is smart. It doesn't. It's a smart feeling game. The only party pooper with the game is the fact that the roster's not huge, and the rollout for new characters has been slow. But as far as like fighting mechanics go, it's the most fun Street Fighter. Like it's the most fun Street Fighter to play since CVS 2 for me. Like
That's pretty far back.
it's well, I mean, look, all Street Fighters are fun to an extent, but this one feels like I can feel I can jump into the game and not have to have committed months of my life to being good at it to understand it, or I don't feel restricted where both 4 and 5 both were like, we're going back to basics. We're going to play like 2. I'm like, 2 never went anywhere. So
Who's the director on this one? Because Ono's gone, right? Ono's
yes, he is gone, and the director he's been there a while. I'm actually mad that I don't know this offhand because he's been very Nakayama. That's right.
Takayama.
Takayuki Nakayama. The Nakayama he's been at Capcom for a while. He's worked on fighting games for a while, but he's just a dude who loves fighting games, and he's just kind of been in the shadows, just making fighting games good, like fixing 5.
No, but
just
that's exactly the guy you want to work on it, because fighting games are still, comparatively speaking, niche. Like there's still, the FGC is not a huge community comparatively speaking. Well, I guess nothing is compared to like COD or shooters, but I don't know. That seems like exactly the guy you want to work on it.
yeah.
Now, if they just bring back Power Stone, me and Kenny would finally be the 2 people that would buy it. We'd be happy. I wasn't even good at Power. Every time I make jokes about Power Stone, it's because it's what I had on the Dreamcast, and I don't even remember which Power Stone I had on Dreamcast. But it's like the one fighting game I played regularly.
If it's 4-player, it's 2. If it's 2-player only, it's 1.
I think it was 4-player. Because I used to play it with like Ian and Rodney. And it's like those are 2 people we haven't talked to in 10 years. More than 10 years. But like every time I make a Power Stone joke, like I know I'm sort of being a poser because it's like the only fighting game that I think I owned. Like my brother owned all the Soul Calibers, I think.
Mm.
And played the shit out of them. So I've played Soul Calibur, but it's mostly just like the younger brother getting beat up by the older brother in a game.
Right.
He plays way more of, and then of course like Street Fighter in arcade and stuff like that. But Mortal Kombat, I have a Mortal Kombat 1 and 2 on Genesis. I played the shit out of, but that's
a long time ago,
and also just so simple compared to what any of the other fighters are.
Yeah,
like being like, I played the shit out of Mortal Kombat 2 doesn't like it's like I like it. I'm not trying to talk shit about it, but it is
fighting games have come a long way since then.
Right. It's so simple, but even for the time, like other fighting games were quite a bit more complex than Mortal Kombat. Mortal Kombat was pretty rudimentary even for its time. It was very cool because it had gore, though. And that's why I liked it. I was an edgy kid. It was edgy shit.
Look, man, anyone who grew up in the 90s understands you completely, honestly.
True. That's unfortunate. All right, you're number one. I wonder if you're going to shock anybody. You gonna blow some minds?
Not at all. It's Future Redeemed.
Yeah, fuck you. It's a 10.
Fuck you. It's a 10. No, for real though. Like, because I know that kind of blew up online this year because someone discovered it and was like, "This is the realest review I've ever seen." Like, Future Redeemed is not a fuck you. It's a 10. Future Redeemed's a 10. Fuck you.
It's a 10.
Like it does pretty much everything I want RPGs to do, and that's not like because every aspect of this game to me excels in what I want in a video game. But I think to before I just all the story and characters come back and it's just a fandom fan service. Like, here's the thing though, it does so much right where it's like they made doing everything in the game important and valuable. Everything, punching every enemy, opening every box, going to every spot on the map, watching every side cutscene or whatever.
I have one question. If you only played this, if you didn't play any of the other games in the series, you for whatever reason you picked up Xenoblade 3, is it still Game of the Year?
Are you talking about just specifically the DLC?
Yeah, sorry. If you just got that, is it still Game of the Year?
Yeah, I mean,
it isn't dependent on any of the other games in the series. Like, if I was like back in the day, I was like, oh, you just have to play Resident Evil 4. You don't have to have played any of the other games for this to be the best fucking game ever.
If you're talking about story-wise, you will be lost as fuck. The DLC for Future Redeemed is a game that is like, no, we're tying up every loose end we've ever had.
Yeah.
This is not for newbies. They went way out of their way for the main game last year. For 3 is a completely standalone product. We go way out of our way not to confuse you with any terminology or whatever. Like, if you've played the other games, you'll recognize some things, but in no way, shape, or form is 3 dependent on knowing anything of 1 and 2 at all.
Because my Game of the Year, I sort of feel like you had to have played 1.
Future Redeemed, you're definitely not going to get anywhere. You're just going to be lost and confused as hell with the storyline in Future Redeemed if you didn't play 1 and 2. If you don't play 1 and 2, you can not play 3, and you could play Future Redeemed and be like, oh, I'm a little lost on the logistics of some things here, but I'm happy to hear have these questions from 1 and 2 answered. But it's very much a game where it's like you need to have played everything. You want to really appreciate everything. You need to have played everything. This is not Future Redeemed is not a game for to step into the franchise with.
Not for the cash.
From a story standpoint,
right?
But as far as gameplay, it's brilliant because everything has purpose and reason for doing. Because to level up your abilities and get new abilities and whatever, just like build your character up specifically, because you have the basic leveling, you punch things, you experience bar goes up, you level up, right? But then it's like all the other thing, your skill tree, right? To expand your skill tree, you need AP points. To get AP points, do everything. Everything gives you AP. Everything gives you AP points. And they've basically calculated it to that. If you do everything in the game, you will have the ability to maximize everyone's skill tree. You get everything if you do everything in the game. And that means punch every enemy. Like if it's low level enemies, kill 3 of them, kill 5 of them, kill 2 of them. If it's a particularly strong enemy, kill it once, or you're just encounter it once. Go. Did you open all the chests in this area? Did you go to every area? Did you go to every specific area or sub area within the zone? You gun just everything unlocks. You see it constantly. You got 5 AP, 25 AP for doing this. Open the chest. Here's 5 AP. Go immediately spend that on one character in the skill tree. It
just feels like the most over the top You know what I mean? Like they just really they wanted to reward you for just getting balls deep in this game.
Yeah, like nothing is wasted. There's no like, hey, we built this giant map and there's a thing over there and it looks kind of neat. Is there any reason for going over there? Nope. Like, but this one, no, there is. Like, no, go over there. You want to finish your skill tree for whatever character, you know, you just want like, and you could be over leveled, you know. That's one thing I always am like, yeah, but look how cool this is. It's like, I'm over leveled. Why would I go fight these low level, like, you know, these bees over here? I don't need to go punch any of these bees. That's dumb. I'm like 10 levels above them. Yeah, but you'll get AP for it because you never encountered them. So you
And-
just go over there and just like punch them once and they die, and like, you got AP. Great, cool.
So it's rewarding you for bullying.
You can. I mean, if you want to try to fight everything at level when the first time you're presented with it, sure. But it's also kind of like you play these RPGs, right? Like especially these big open world ones, and like pick any big RPG, any open world RPG, right? And you know, you'll be like, oh, did you encounter this enemy? No, I never did that. And like, is there any reason for you? Not really. Like, if I'm level 25 and they're like, oh well, there was this thing over here you could have saw, you know, you could have encountered this thing, you can still go over there and do it now, but it's level 10. You're just gonna kind of kill it really right away. So you have no reason to ever go to that spot on the map if you've leveled up to 25 here, because that spot on the map is now a completely dead zone at this point. You know, it's like, well, what about a quest line? I don't even need to do a quest. I don't even need the experience on the quest. But this game, no, it's like, no, everything gives you AP for your skill tree, so everything has a purpose.
Cool.
And it's a completely original cast. Well, I mean, has characters from 1 and 2 in it, but like completely original cast, which frankly they should have gotten the 100-hour game. But then again, I love the cast in all the games. But like, I don't know, like you got that aspect going. You have all this original music for it. They have this capping off of a personal creator's 25-year journey to try to complete a story that he tried to start 25 years ago and had to stop and restart twice in his life. And he, you know, so you have this big personal journey. They brought back, you know, musically, they brought back a singer from Xenogears to do the ending song, who has, you know, to basically cap this off for 25 years. Like, no, we're ending it where we began it. We're closing this loop of this saga this guy's been trying to tell, and we're going to bring back like the original musicians, the original singers, songwriters, what have you. You know, we're trying to really tie this knot, even though that was 2 companies and 2 IPs ago. So like there's like this big love letter for anyone who's been following this personal man's work as he's had to jump ship from company to company, IP to IP. So you got
it's just
that
a
going
massively satisfying experience.
Yes,
especially if you're long term.
And that's on top of the fact that like it does something I can't believe. The only reason they got away with it is because Nintendo had no idea that this was
all the
going
best
on.
things are created right under the nose of the bean counters,
right? Because like, what's the central thematic theme of this game? It's basically a denouncement of secular Christianity. Like, and a lot of people won't get that, but like, it basically takes the idea of, if you know what the rapture is, and the idea of the rapture, and it basically takes that
barely Christianity.
Well, I mean, it's secular Christianity because it's I think I forget the name of the guy who basically propagated this. It propagated this idea. It was in like the 1800s, late 1800s, and it's basically overtaken most modern Protestant Christian denominations nowadays. Is the idea of this rapture and Jesus is going to come back, and it literally takes that almost like it's so blatant, but I don't know how no one noticed this. And it basically says this is a selfish philosophically, this is a selfish ideal.
Oof.
And
so there's a big swath of America that's not going to love this, but
I don't know if America's even gonna like. I don't know if people are just gonna see like anime characters and cat ears and just be like, duh.
Like, well, you know, Welsh Cat Girl is what almost
exactly. I don't think people are gonna put it together, and then it basically has this whole thing that's disturbingly relevant because the whole crux of the main character is he's trying to find his sister, who these characters live in what's called the city. They basically, their grandparents were soldiers on opposing sides of this basically never-ending war, literally never-ending war. and they were able to break free. They met each other, and then they started a family, and they're the grandchildren of them. And the sister of the main character is like, we should just flee, live in peace, stop fighting this war. And the main character is like, that's not fair to all the soldiers living and dying in this eternal fight now. Like, we built this city away from everything, on this ideal that our grandparents have, to live a better life. And then she just keeps saying, like, what is the point? And then, like, it gets even more disturbing in a way, because the sister basically gets sort of, I guess you could say, radicalized away with this ideal that, like, oh, I'm gonna go follow this kind man who promised me a better world, for me and his children elsewhere.
Goddamn cults.
Right. And then the whole plot, the crux of the game is just like, why do you even, like, like she comes to, like, the main character Matthew, what's so great about this world anyways? Like, these people's lives are treated less than dirt. There's nothing worth saving here. Forget these people. Good riddance to what, the line is like, good riddance to what anything these butchers wanted to save. Yeah, and then like they have to, like, there's this whole confrontation where they're like, yeah, did you ever think about all the civilizations that came before you? What happened to them with their basically never-ending quest for power and immortality or whatever. It's like it all eventually fell to ruins from infighting and stuff. So, and then, like, again, the whole secular Christianity thing is saying that, like, okay, so someone's going to come along and take a select few chosen people to a new world, and then just leave everyone else here to just die, and that's okay. Like, just
Dave's fault.
God
God loves it.
Yeah, God, exactly. So, like, that's the whole attack and dethrone God aspect of the game, where it's basically saying, like, no, this is a selfish ideology, right? You have right here. So that's where I'm just kind of like, wow, this is some heavy stuff. This is not just, oh, there's cat girls in booba and fan service and panty shots. It's not. That's what people think. They sit there and, like, anime characters and stuff. It's just lewd shit. And I'm like, no, it's actually like a denouncement of, like, the vast majority of Christian America.
I mean, it's wild what you can hide behind cat ears and panty shots.
But there is, well, I mean, there's
It
cat
is.
ears, but there's not the other thing. But yeah, it's
No panty shots, then why would I play it? What are you talking about? This is why Resident Evil 4 wasn't in my top 5.
But no, this is why, because I'm like, wow, this has, like, this story that sticks with you. It's like this beautiful wrapping up of a man's lifelong career, writing career. It's got amazing music, original music. It's got an amazing cast of characters, and it has this beautiful game design philosophy that makes everything important and worthwhile to do. So I'm like, this is like this is a perfect game. Like, I mean, yeah, technically it's DLC, but it's like, it's like its own stand. It's like, you don't have to play the main game to access it. You literally can just buy it and play it.
Is it full price?
No, it's like $30. Well, you have to have, I think, Xenoblade 3 to play it. I think they do require you to own the base game, weirdly, even though it doesn't use anything from the base game, oddly enough. But yeah, it's like 30. I think it's $30 on its own. But that's every bit of DLC for the main game as well. They just sell it as one package. It's just one package altogether.
We did a solid 2-hour Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Well, I mean, there's going to be a New Year's episode too, I guess, too. But this is your holidays. For those of you traveling and maybe you have to escape your family for a little bit of time, you want to sit down and spend 2 hours, listen to us talk about the games we liked the most this year. This one's for you.
It's for you guys.
And once again, we have producers to thank. If you're interested in becoming a patron at any level, please check out patreon.com/YoVideogames podcast. Dude of the week was Kilos. Look, man, I'm fucking up your name no matter what I do. But you're dude of the week, and we thank you very much. Please let me know how to say your name, and I'll correct it for the next episode. But our producers,
Setospalis, come on,
Setospalis.
Ketospalis.
I'm messing up. I will correct it.
Someone's right.
Producers for this episode are Mutton Chops Johnson, Screwed On Me, Croy35, Hyper Viper 89, and Ziggy Z. Thank you, dudes, and we will catch you next time.
Hey, dudes.